Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review for Distant Origin, which is episode 23 of season 3 of Star Trek Voyager. This video is a part of a series of videos where I review episodes of Star Trek one episode at a time. In this video I cover the third season Voyager episode Distant Origin. So Distant Origin is the episode in which we follow a group of aliens called the VOY as they're trying to discover, or a scientist is trying to discover the long lost link or distant origin theory of his people. And they are tracking down, as we soon discover, Voyager, saying that they are somehow linked to their origins, and they just go under cloak on the Voyager to do some research. However, the crew soon finds out that they're there and hunts them down, and they react in fear. While they manage to stun one of the Voth, the other one takes Chakotay hostage. However, we soon find out he's just a scientist trying to discover their origins, and we discover that through the Doctor and Janeway's own investigations that these are in fact descendants of dinosaurs from Earth from billions of years ago, and that they somehow had left the planet and ventured out into space and found themselves in the Delta Quadrant. And that is what the scientist is trying to prove. Problem is that this goes against doctrine of their culture, that places that they are from that region, and that they are not immigrants, and that they are not related to these primates, which they see as inferior. And so the scientist is put on trial. The Voyager crew is, the whole ship is abducted because the Voth technology is far superior to Voyager's, and they put the scientist on trial and try to get him to retract his distant origin theory. He refuses to do so, and Chakotay tries to back him up, but they soon threaten to have Voyager destroyed and to imprison the entire Voyager crew unless he agrees to retract his theory. So he does agree to retract his theory, even though he knows it's correct. And they part on good terms, and Voyager goes on its merry way. So, first thing I want to talk about is the 1968 movie Planet of the Apes. Now, I know this is a review of the Voyager episode Distant Origin, but bear with me here. I want to talk about Planet of the Apes because I had a feeling, I had an inkling that this episode was very similar to it. Now, it had actually been like a long time since I've seen Planet of the Apes. When I was growing up, I saw the sequel, Beneath the Planet of the Apes, when I was young, and that, spoilers for that movie, but it ends with the entire world getting destroyed, which I thought was like super dark, but like in a cheesy kind of way. And it wasn't until later, because of course I've heard of Planet of the Apes. I knew the twist ending, and damn you all to hell. And so I heard of that, and I knew that was like a thing, and I heard of the movie Planet of the Apes, and it was all about, these apes going around being and controlling these people, but I never actually sat down and watched the movie from start to finish. I remember one time, I have a distinct memory of being sick from school, and I was just like flipping through the channels, back in when I used to flip through channels, and this movie came up that was with these, astronauts on another planet, exploring another planet. I was like, oh, this is interesting. I've never heard of this. And so I started watching it, and then when they finally came across the apes, I was like, oh, this is Planet of the Apes. It's not like nowadays where you just hit pause and you can see the title underneath. This is back when you used to flip channels. Unless you had a TV guide, you had no idea what the hell it was you were watching, and if you missed the opening credits, which I did. So I didn't even know I was watching Planet of the Apes until I saw the apes come up, and I was like, oh, okay, Planet of the Apes. And I watched it, from start to finish then. And to be honest, I was like maybe 16 or something at the time. But to be honest, like since then, I kind of forgot the details of that movie. And this may sound silly or dumb, but what I knew of Planet of the Apes mostly came from that Simpsons parody where they did the Planet of the Apes musical, because I watched the Simpsons a lot as a young adult and into my 20s and 30s, and I saw that particular sequence like over and over again. I used to like love it, where it was like I know every ape from chimpanzee to chimpanzee, and you finally made a monkey. Yes, you finally made a monkey. Anyway, I love you, Dr. Zsasz. Like, it had that song earlier. It was like, Dr. Zsasz, Dr. Zsasz, can I play the piano anymore? Well, of course you can. Well, I couldn't before. Sorry. I've seen that so many times, and that's mainly what I knew it from. And then when I was watching this episode, I was like, is this similar to Planet of the Apes? Did they do something similar in Planet of the Apes, where the apes were trying to prove that they were related to humans somehow, and they were called heretics for doing so? And so I went back and rewatched this movie just a couple days ago, like right before I watched this episode. I watched Planet of the Apes. And at first I was like, oh, this doesn't really have anything to do with that. It's just about, Charlton Heston, being kidnapped by these apes and treated like shit because he thinks they're primitive. But then eventually we do get to a storyline that is very similar to this one. Now, not to the point where I think it's like a direct ripoff. It's not a Siege of 558 Saving Private Ryan situation where it's like a scene by scene remake of it. It's not nearly as bad as that, because it fucking is. Siege of 558 is like a scene by scene, like beat by beat. It's not just because it's a war movie. There's no other war movie where it takes it beat by beat by beat. But anyway, sorry. That irritates me that people still try to argue with me about that. But you can go watch my review of that episode to know more about it. But anyway, so it's not as bad. But the more I thought about it, I was like, they definitely based that episode off of Planet of the Apes. Like, no doubt. And it kind of annoys me when they won't admit it. Like, because I was looking at the behind the scenes stuff and, comments from the writers and stuff, and they were like, oh, we based this off of Galileo and the whole, Galileo being thrown out and not listened to and called a heretic because he, taught a theory that went against, religious doctrine or whatever. And to be fair, I'm sure that's what Planet of the Apes based their story off of as well. So you could argue that both things happen to base their stories off the same source material. And that's also true. There was this Babylon 5 episode that came out well after Chain of Command, by the way, that was pretty much a direct ripoff of Chain of Command Part 2, where this guy was torturing the main character, and I think he did something similar to the Four Lights, but different. It was like very like mind-fucking tactics. And the argument there is like, well, they're not ripping off Chain of Command. They're actually ripping off 1984. Like, both Chain of Command and that episode are inspired by 1984. Which, to a degree, yes. But to another degree, they definitely are ripping off Chain of Command Part 2 specifically. But And so I think this is the same situation here. That, yeah, to a degree, yes, they're both based off of Galileo, but to another degree, there are a lot of similarities. Like, especially watching the two pieces back to back, like, I mean, there's obviously difference. There's not a human who astronaut goes off to another planet and thinks he's on another planet, but he's really on Earth. Like, nothing like that happens. Oh no, I was wrong. It was Earth all along. Yes, you finally made a monkey. Yes, you finally made a monkey. Anyway, sorry. Every time I think of when the newer Planet of the Apes movies came out, I just had that song in my head the entire time. Every time someone mentioned the movie. But anyway, seen The Simpsons way too much. But anyway, I love you, Dr. Sayers. Sorry. But the funny thing is based off that skit, I thought Dr. Zaius would be the good scientist character who was helping the Charlton Heston character, but no, he's actually, in this case, he was like I don't even remember what they call her, the queen or emperor or whatever, who was like, do you detract your theory? Like, he was that character. He was the one who was trying to stifle the theory, saying that it goes against scripture. I think they were saying scripture rather than doctrine. But anyway, so yeah, very striking similarities, because Planet of the Apes was a movie about a humanoid apes, and there was a scientist who had a theory that these humans were related to apes somehow, that on an evolutionary scale. And that theory was trying to be quietly pushed to the side by the leadership until they insisted on proving themselves. And they thought, if we go off and we find the proof we need, then they will have to listen to us. And they go off and they find the proof they need. And then instead of listening to them, we find out they already knew this, but they were denying it because it challenges their belief system. So, in case you're not clear, I'm describing both Distant Origin and Planet of the Apes at the same time. That happens in both of them. And yeah, with Planet of the Apes, it's these humanoid apes, but with Distant Origin, it's these humanoid dinosaurs. Tit for tat. And in this case, the apes evolved from the humans, but in the Distant Origins, the dinosaurs evolved before humans. But it's like, see the similarities? And also, like, in both cases, like in Planet of the Apes, they thought of humans as inferior, and they were like, these disgusting animals, they smell. And in Distant Origin, they thought that primates, that any humanoid, primate as inferior, and they also talked about, they smell. Especially that when they talked about, oh God, what is that smell? And I'm like, they did that to me is when I watched that in Distant Origin, I was like, it's the exact same thing they did in Planet of the Apes. And of course, but now in retrospect, you also think of Vulcans from Enterprise, but don't even get me started on that bullshit. Not that I'm opposed to, like, other aliens thinking humans smell. I mean, that makes sense, but not Vulcan. But anyway, sorry. But there's something I always wondered, though. Since we're on the topic of the VOY thinking that humanity is inferior, that any, human or any primate is inferior. During his investigation, he went to the space station, I can't remember, the one that was from the episode Fair Trade. And they were like, we talked to these people and blah, blah, blah. How come none of those people are inferior? They're all like humanoid primates. How come they're not inferior? How come you're willing to lower yourself to talk to them? Anyway. And the whole thing with them, like, being under cloak and going on the Voyager ship and talking like it's a nature show, and it's like, oh, this is the mating ritual of the, that's different than, well, no, it's actually kind of, you could say it's kind of similar to Planet of the Apes, because they put like that woman in Charlton Heston's cell, and it's like, oh, this is their mating rituals, and oh, there's a woman for you to mate with or whatever, and it's kind of similar to the way they were observing Tom and B'Elanna. So as I said, it's like, it's not as bad as Siege of 558. Like, this is not beat for beat for beat for beat, but it's definitely up there. It's definitely close to the whole Donnie Brasco episode, which I haven't gotten to yet, the Honor Among Thieves, and also the Casablanca thing with profit and loss. It's funny because most people focus on profit and loss as the biggest example of, oh, this is a shot-by-shot remake, but I don't even think that's the biggest example. Like, as I said, Siege of 558 is definitely the worst example of that, and this is probably up there with the Casablanca thing, quite frankly, I would say. I'm sorry, but I think it goes beyond simply they're both based on Galileo. Like, there's too many other like similarities, like the whole they stink and they're inferior, humans are inferior, and here's a humanoid ape and here's a humanoid dinosaur. And also, like, the fact that the Voss technology is, like, so superior to Voyager, where they're able to, like, take over the ship and control them easily. Kind of similar to, like, Charlton Heston and the other humans being captured and controlled and imprisoned by, and being at the mercy of the apes. The Voyager crew, in the same way, is at the mercy of the Voth. So, I don't know. This is very, very similar. And it kind of irritates me that all the quotes and stuff that I found about this episode don't mention Planet of the Apes. Just mention it. Like, I've seen other, like the whole Casablanca thing, they mention that. They're like up front. And there's other cases where there's other movies or plays or stuff that inspire them, like, basing was that a dumb episode from the original series? Alan of Troyes, basing that off of Turning of the Shrew, whatever that Shakespeare plays called, I don't remember. But they admit that's like that. Profit and Loss is Casablanca, and other times they'll admit, this is, or they even bring up the duet in The Man in the Glass Booth, I believe it's called. How it was the inspiration for the episode Duet. So they mention it, and they're outright. My theory was, because they didn't mention Saving Private Ryan, except to outright put it down. They claim that they didn't even see the movie before they write the episode. Bullshit. Bullshit! There's no universe in which I believe that. But, sorry. This is way too many coincidences, way too many exact same things. But anyway, this is based off of this other classic war movie. Bullshit! I'm sorry. I digress. This is, as you can tell, a topic that really gets me excited, and I feel very strongly about that. I will die on a hill. I will die on that hill that Siege of 558 is a direct rip-off of Saving Private Ryan. I will die there. Anyway, sorry. But yeah, they won't admit it. And that's what irritates me. And I haven't heard them like confronted with this, so I hadn't heard them deny that this was Planet of the Apes, to be fair, but they should have admitted it. They should have just been like, yeah, we're kind of inspired by Planet of the Apes. Just admit it. Like, there's nothing wrong. Like, you do it in some episodes. Why they refuse to do it in other, like the Donnie Brasco thing, they never admitted that either. Well, that's fucking obvious. So, my theory was that they would refuse to admit modern movies, maybe they're worried about like getting sued or something, so they'd only, maybe this is different with classic movies, they'll admit, oh yeah, we're inspired by this classic movie. But at this stage, like Planet of the Apes was almost 30 years old, so why not admit that? I think that's classic enough for them to admit it, but maybe that it was still too recent. I don't know. Just admit it. So that recontextualized the episode a bit for me once I realized it's Planet of the Apes. It made it feel less original, quite frankly. And I was like, oh, well, yeah, they're just doing Planet of the Apes. I mean, the whole thing is like, it goes against doctrine. It's the exact same thing. The whole structure of Planet of the Apes is like, this goes against scripture. And it was all about a rogue scientist who was being friendly to the human, trying to prove their theory. And what? Yeah, it's the same fucking story. But anyway, now the other thing with this episode is I think this is, I didn't put it on my list of top 10 overrated episodes of Star Trek, to be fair, but when I think of an overrated Voyager episode, this definitely comes to mind. Now, to be clear, for me to consider something overrated, it means I like it to one degree or another. Like, episodes I totally hate that I think are shit that people like are like in a separate category for me. Like Tuvix is the prime example of that category of a piece of shit episode that people like for some weird reason. I wouldn't call that overrated. I would call that like people liking a shitty episode. But so in this, so when I say it's overrated, it doesn't mean I dislike the episode. I like it. I think it's a good episode, but not that good. Like, to me, overrated is saying like it's good, but not that good. Because I've seen people put this in a lot of people actually, not just like a few, but I've seen a lot of people put this in like their top 10 Voyager episodes. I think I didn't look on this in IMDb, and I'm too lazy to do it right now, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty high up there on the IMDb countdown. Yeah, I don't think it's that good. Like, it's, don't get me wrong, it's good, but several things. And this is, like, even before I made the Planet of the Apes connection. But several things. Like, a lot of people praise it for the fact that it focuses on the Voth, and it focuses on the guest characters. But I actually find that a little bit alienating. I feel like it's not actually a Voyager episode. Like, a lot of people say, oh, this is the first time Star Trek did that. They risked like having the first 2 or 3 acts not even feature the Voyager crew, and they're being more like side characters. And they say that like that's a great thing. That's not a style I particularly like. I think that alienates me from the story. And it's funny because I had a thought that towards the end of season 3, once they were destroying the show with this terrible season, that they no longer really understood the characters because they were trying to rewrite them and they were like destroying them. And so they decided, well, let's not actually show our characters. Let's show them as little as possible. Let's do an episode that takes place in this alternate future that is mostly take place with these different versions of our character, totally different than what we actually have, and only show our actual characters towards the very end of that episode. Let's do that so we don't actually have to show our characters. And then let's do this other episode where there's these aliens and we follow them for most of the episode, and our characters are just like side characters because we don't really want to take the time to focus on our characters. And then let's do another episode that takes place in a holodeck program that's taking place in the first season of the show when it was actually good, when we actually understood the characters, and so we can focus on that because we don't really understand our characters. That's the cynical part part of me saying that I just had that thought, though, that they had destroyed this show and the characters so much with this awful season that they had to try to show them their actual present day characters as little as possible. That being said, I include this as the uptick of season 3, when the season actually started to get good. That before this, the only really good season, or really good episode of season 3 was Remember, which was a TNG script. The rest, where they actually tried to write original scripts, just turn out crap after crap after crap and start destroying characters, killing characters. I mean, there were some other good episodes like Unity and Rise, but yeah, for the most part, it's just like crap. But that ended here. This ends now. With the last 4 episodes, Unity displaced Worst Case Scenario and Scorpion. I call this the uptick. This is when they got their shit together, so to speak. And it's funny because, and I talked about this a lot before, that there was a trailer that actually showed like it was coming towards Voyager. The 4 amazing episodes. It was like the trailer was trying to convince you. It was like, no, the show's actually going to get good now. Don't stop watching us. I know we've been shit, but trust us, the show's actually going to get good now. Actually, let me show you this trailer, because I actually found this trailer online. There was another one that they did for Deep Space Nine at the exact same time, but I think that showed more episodes because DS9 had more episodes left, because I remember seeing Soldiers of the Empire and what's that other one? Children of Time was also included. So it included 6 episodes in that. But I could not find the DS9 trailer online. I looked and I looked and I looked, and I couldn't find it. I think I at least found out that the trailer exists. Like something online told me that they did do that. So I'm not just imagining things. I don't have false memories implanted in my brain. Because I know that DS9 and Voyager did it at the same time. And I talked about this before, saying that because Season 5 was also bland, it also wasn't really that good. Although, to be fair, rewatching Season 5 DS9 makes me appreciate it more, which I'll get to when I cover that, do the ranking of the episodes at the end of the season. But it still was kind of a decrease from Season 3 and 4, to be fair. And so I think, both shows were suffering from a bad season, and at the same time, they both improved. And I was like, that can't be a coincidence, because, towards the end of Season 5, DS9 got good. Towards the end of Season 3, Voyager, that got good. And then they released a trailer at the same time saying, no, this trust us, this is going to get so much better towards the end of the season. So here, let me show you the Voyager one.
The all-new Voyagers are on the way.
Back off.
And come this May. Come what may. No challenge will be too great.
Intruder alert. Arm yourselves.
This crew will take on all comers.
Fire!
Come this May. Come what may. Enemies will be vanquished. Lost worlds will be conquered.
Your vessel is under our control.
Come this May. Come what may. Wednesday nights will belong to Star Trek Voyager.
Seska. Red alert. Set your phasers to kill. To lock it down!
The all-new Voyagers are on the way, and come this May. Come what may, you won't want to miss a single breathtaking, heart-pounding, eye-opening moment, right up to the shocking season finale. Star Trek Voyager, Wednesday this May on UPN.
Coming this May, come what may. I didn't realize it said that specifically. I didn't remember that aspect of it. It's a shame I can't see the DS9 one. I know I can't remember what they were saying. They were like, good things coming on Deep Space Nine. And as I said, like, I did really like this episode. I know I mostly sounds like I don't like it so far. But, yeah, I should mention that the original promo for this episode in particular, I'm not going to show that one as well, because showing you one promo is good enough. But the other one for this one was like, talk about a lost world, because this is around the same time that the Jurassic Park sequel, Lost World, was coming out, and so they were like trying to compete with that and being like, no, this is the real Lost World. And it's funny because they're comparing themselves to Jurassic Park when really this is Planet of the Apes with dinosaurs instead of apes, but you know, whatever. Yeah, I mean, I feel like the dinosaur aspect of this episode is a gimmick. Like, ooh, isn't that cool, dinosaurs? But when you think about it, like, I don't know, it does seem more like Planet of the Apes. Like, the dinosaurs evolved. And other people were pointing out that it's like there's billions of years difference between when dinosaurs and humans were on Earth, so that this is actually plausible. What's not plausible to me is that they go all the way out to the fucking Delta Quadrant. Like, why go so far? I think, I don't know. People just underestimate how far the Delta Quadrant is. Like, that aspect of, to me, doesn't make any sense. But, you know, they're not going to do this as an episode of Deep Space Nine, and TNG is not running anymore, so Voyager is, you know, they got to deal with what they got to deal with. But it does make it a lot more implausible. Yeah, and there's other episodes a couple other episodes that mention, like, people going from Earth to the Delta Quadrant. There was the 37s, and then there was Tattoo, and it's like, it's a very original series-esque to me. Now, as I said, like, I actually kind of like this. I do like this episode, not just kind of. I do like it. I just don't think it's the bee's knees. Like, even though I think that showing the Voth for the first two acts is kind of alienating, there is an aspect of that I must admit I find cool, that I do find interesting. And I do like that guest characters the guest actors do a really good job, and they actually carry the show quite effectively, which is good writing and good acting. It's funny, I was listening to the Delta Flyers podcast, and Robert Duncan McNeill, well, he gave this episode an 8, so it's not like he didn't like it, but like Garrett Wong gave it like a 9.9 or something, like he loved it. But Robert Duncan McNeill's biggest complaint was that wasn't enough of the main cast. There was too much of guest actors and too much of guest characters. I agree. Like, there's that cynical part of me that thought, like, oh, we don't even like our main characters anymore, so let's barely show them. But, and also I hate the fact that they focus on the Tom B'Elanna thing again, where they had to give them example of a mating ritual like that. But I won't get into that. I know that's something I'm going to have to get used to going forward, but it's not going to stop me complaining about it every time they show it. It's just not. Sorry. It's just something you're going to have to get used to for watching my reviews. But anyway, it is effectively creepy, the way that how much more advanced that Voth is. Like, their ship is fucking massive. Like, they're able to beam the entire Voyager inside their ship. Like, and like, every time, like, they try to regain control of the ship, and Tom tries to fire those torpedoes, and they think, oh, we're going to take the ship back, and then it does absolutely nothing, because their technology is just that much more advanced. Like, there is something, like, creepy about that. And it's also interesting that the Voth, like the main leader, Empress, whatever they call her, her quarrel is not necessarily with the Voyager itself. Her quarrel is with the scientists. She's just capturing Voyager and threatening them as a means to an ends to get back at the scientist, to get him to recount his theory, which eventually he does. Eventually, he realizes that he would, that he doesn't want to sacrifice the entire Voyager crew. It's interesting, actually, that he's willing to sacrifice himself. He's like, fine, go ahead, send me to prison. I don't give a shit. I'm not going to back down. But they're like, okay, we're going to send the entire Voyager crew to prison and we're going to destroy their ship. That's when he was like, he couldn't bring himself to do that, because it's different, and there's other episodes and stuff that deal with this, but it's different to sacrifice yourself, but then like forcing a whole bunch of other people who are innocent, who did nothing wrong to you, and sacrificing them for your beliefs is a whole other story. And it just shows how strong of character that he actually is, that he is willing to go along with this. Again, very Planet of the Apes. So yeah, he is willing to. So it's an interesting story. I was definitely engaged. I love the continuity. How it starts with them going to the planet from basics and finding Hogan's bones. It is interesting to think about when the Voth scientist is talking to the skeleton and asking it questions. It's interesting to realize that that's Hogan's skull he's talking to. I don't know why, but that's interesting. And then they call back to fair trade, the space station, and I think those are the main two episodes they call. I think maybe there's a couple other episodes they reference, but that's the kind of continuity that Voyager usually avoid like the fucking plague. And apparently, I heard, I don't know if this is true, but I heard that Brennan Braga and Joe Manowski had to talk Rick Berman into it, that he was, of course, at first very rejecting referencing earlier episodes. Get over yourself, you prick. But anyways, I'm glad they won that fight, though. I mean, it's a small thing, but it is something. And yeah, the Voth were scary. It was an interesting enough story. I do like Chakotay bonding with the scientist. That was interesting. So yeah, it was an interesting episode. I just don't get why people would call this like top 10 material, like the bee's knees. I don't think the Voyager crew features in it enough. And it's just, there's just not much enough to it. It's basically, even if you haven't seen Planet of the Apes, it's basically just the story of Galileo, put it that way. It's basically just, we deny you the scientific, and it doesn't, like, he ends up having to give up in order to spare the lives of Voyager. So, I don't know. I'm not saying that's a bad story. I'm saying I don't see it as like the bee's knees. I don't see it as like one of the greatest things ever done since sliced bread. But that is just me. Anyway, I would now like to thank my Patreon supporters very much for supporting me on Patreon. I'd like to give a big, huge, gigantic, overwhelming special thanks to Tyler Cease, Jordan Johnson, Antarius, and Brandon Neal Howells. Thank you all so very, very much for your strong support. I'd also like to give a shout out to Benjamin Mead, Francisco, Chuck Hooks, Kyrie091, Anthony D. Benedictus, Ricky, Matty Jester, Alessandro Megalacio, Norman Buchwald, Stephen Kennedy, Brenton Berg, and Allison Fordyce. Thank you all so very, very much for your support. So, we have a couple Facebook comments, I think. So if you want to make a comment and you're not a Patreon supporter, you can go follow me on Facebook or Blue Sky. Either one is acceptable. And I ask for comments on videos from time to time. So if you want to make them, you can go ahead and jump on there and make a shorter comment, to be sure. But still, you can make a comment that I'll read in my video. So first Facebook comment. I actually love this idea. I think it's really unique and cool, but it should have been the Alpha Quadrant and not Delta. It loses me that the other end of the galaxy had Earthlings. Totally agree. 100% agree. Could not agree more. As I said, the reason why was because Voyager was the show that was going at the time, and this isn't a Deep Space. This is not an episode Deep Space Nine would do. So is what it is. But yeah, I do agree that is something that damages this episode for me. Alright, so let's go ahead and jump into the Patreon comments. First comment is from Kyrie091, who says, Distant Origin, more like piss, there's more of it. An iconic episode like this deserves an iconic pun. This pun will go alongside such classics as Booty Crap, Plate of Fucks, and Great Gate of Trucks, and Encounter at Fart Point. Mark will reference this pun for years to come. I can't wait for the Enchantment of Eternity top 10 best Kyrie puns. I wonder what will be number 1. This episode is good. I like it. It's a saucer of fucks, much less than a plate. This is the dinosaur one, right? I'm sure Mark doesn't like it because Mark don't know Star Trek like I do. May the track be with you, Jean-Luc Skyclawed. What? And there's a comment from Brent Neil Howes responding to this saying, I second the request for Enchantment of Eternity's top 10 best Kyrie puns. Yes, you can ask me for that. You're all $10 supporters. If you really want me to do that, you can make the request official. Well, $10 or more, I should say. But it would be a really short video. Like, I wouldn't really have much to say about the puns. It would be like a 3-minute video. I'd just be like, list off 10 puns and be like, oh, maybe it could be a bit longer. Maybe I can stretch it out to like 6 minutes, I suppose. But if you really want me to do that, I can. There's some other good ones that you left out. You're bored. I like. Oh, what's the ass I meant? That's one of my favorites too. For the assignment, the ass I meant. I really like that one too. But yeah, I don't even know if I like Booty Crap that much. That's what you like. But anyway. Next comment is from Antarius, who says, dinosaurs evolving into a spacefaring species who, for whatever reason, colonized the Delta Quadrant instead of any planet near Earth. As much as I like the message of this episode, this is unbelievable premise bothers me. Are that Hogan's remains? It's sad that the crew didn't beam his remains on board before leaving the planet or arrange for some sort of decent burial. Voyager's scanners were certainly able to detect the remains. I really liked that the episode is mostly told from the alien perspective in the beginning. This reminds me of the TNG episode First Contact. Finally, Chakotay has something more to do again. There are great dialogue, exciting scenes, and the design of the aliens and their ships is well done. My rating is a 9 out of 10. Oh, I forgot about the First Contact TNG episode. Yeah, that episode, I really thought that was highly overrated. Again, I felt alienated by the fact that we were following these aliens. Alienated by following aliens? Get it? Ha 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 hoo ha. No, that's not what I meant. But to be fair, I think that's worse than this episode. What they did in First Contact alienated me more. I felt more disconnected. I've talked before when I reviewed that episode how they should have had like a teaser. Like, not a trailer, but the first scene that happens before the credits roll should have been like Riker going through the planet and under disguise to sort of get us used to it. And then after we come back from the credits, then we can follow these aliens. That, I think, would have been much better. To hard start with these other aliens, like who the fuck are they? What the fuck happened? Why is Riker here? Felt like I was being told the story instead of shown it. And I didn't get that with this episode, to be fair. To be fair, I think the introduction of the Voth was done very well. You really got in your headspace. You did get the connection between them and the Voyager right away. It didn't feel like I was missing something. So in that way, it was actually much better. But I'm still not the biggest fan of this style overall. Yeah, I do agree. That is a very unbelievable premise. Yes, that is Hogan's remains. I didn't even think of that they could have beamed the remains on board. But really, what would they do with the remains on a sterile starship? Like, usually when someone dies, they shoot their remains out into space. So why bring his remains on board so they could shoot those out into space? I don't know. Seems like it would make just as much sense to leave it on the planet. And I don't know, maybe they're too afraid to go near that serpent creature to give him proper burial. Anyway, fucking Neelix skinning people killed. Anyway, next comment is from Benjamin Mead, who says, I remember being really excited for this one when it first came out because I loved dinosaurs as a kid. I really liked this episode a lot. They took a lot of care with the Voth, and there are tons of little details and world building that really makes them an interesting species, and it makes this episode stand out. The makeup in different colors and patterns was really noticeable. The story is also timely given that we have a university presidents and professors being fired for teaching ideas that the state is actively trying to suppress. Yeah, unfortunately, yes, that it is prescient, which says more about how we're repeating history than how Voyager predicted the future, because they're just copying Planet of the Apes. They're just going off of Galileo and history like that. So it's just, weren't actually predicting the future. So it's just that history always repeats itself. Sorry. Next comment is from Stephen Kennedy, who says, I can't believe Joe I Don't Care About Canon Manowski wrote this episode. This is my favorite episode of Voyager, and I know why after watching it. Because about 75% of the episode had nothing to do with this boring starship. At least they picked the best character of the show to be kidnapped by the dinosaur scientists. So my rating is a 10. I'm so glad that the Voth was only in one episode of the show, that they love destroying almost every other alien race that happened to be on the show out of 10. P.S. This is the first episode I've watched since near the end of Season 2. I will be back in 2 episodes' time unless someone has already reviewed it, but I will watch it anyway. If you're referring to Scorpion, then yes, someone has already reviewed it. Will not be asking for comments on that episode, unfortunately. And if you're talking about worst case scenario, same thing. Already reviewed it. So, yeah. I think Displaced is the only other Voyager episode I'm going to review of Season 3 after this. Well, that doesn't count Revisited, but that's, just for the patron supporters, and I don't ask for comments for those. But yeah, it does make sense, Steven, if that's your attitude towards the Voyager crew, that you don't like them and find them boring. It does make sense that you would like this episode. And in fact, as I said, I think that's the writer's intention. They're like, oh, we don't know how to write for these characters. We've destroyed them, so let's just not focus on it anymore. Anyway, next comment is from Brendan Neil Howes. He says, I like the Voth and I'm so sorry that we never see them again. The parts of the episode shot from the Voth point of view are the most interesting. Once it switches to the Voyager crew's perspective, my interest wanes a lot. Gegen means against in German, which is ironically funny considering that his scientist beliefs are on trial. I find spacefaring dinosaurs hilarious and ridiculous at the same time. Finally, Chakotay is given something to do, a good acting role, and I like his friendship with Gegen and their search for the history and the truth. I do not understand why Elder Adala is so threatened by Gegen's theory that she has to threaten to put not only Gegen but the entire crew of Voyager in a detention center in order to get Gegen to recant his heresy. How do Gegen and Veer know how to pronounce Voyager correctly? 6 globes of Earth out of 10. So I get why Elder Adala, I guess that's her name, why she was so, because I think they made that clear, because she has this rant where she finally drops the facade of, oh, your theories are just bullshit. She drops the facade finally where she yells, "We are not immigrants!" So it, to me, that explains that it's like part of their core beliefs, like their core religious beliefs, like the beliefs that define them as a people, that they're from that region and that they control that region, they're of the region. So to suggest that they're immigrants, which are looked upon as very lowly, apparently they look on immigrants as very lowly. They also look on primates very lowly, so they don't want to be associated with human beings. So all that makes sense to me, is the why that they would rather deny science, because it challenges their core beliefs, just like Planet of the Apes, that challenges their core beliefs of humanity being primitive and disgusting. But anyway, it's funny because you said you're disappointed we didn't see the Voth again. I think it was Steven or maybe someone else who said they're glad they didn't see the Voth again. I don't know. Like, it would have been nice to see the Voth again, I suppose, but I don't think they could really do anything with them. Like, they would have to justify their reappearance, and as I believe it was Steven pointed out, that Voyager has a track record of bringing species back and destroying them and making them worse. Like species A472 was the biggest example of that. You could also say they did that to the Hirogen a bit in season 7 as well, maybe. I don't know. It wasn't that bad what they did to the Hirogen, but still, totally destroyed species A472. So maybe it is for the best that they never appeared again. Anyway, next comment is from Norman Buchwald, who says, "This is definitely when the writing, production / acting of Voyager finally picked up, and interestingly enough, focused mainly on the Voth species and their point of view, from intriguing camera angles to the present to represent their viewpoint, the finding of the evidence including Hogan. Wow, there's continuity and reminder of Michael Piller Voyager. Interesting. And soon Seska would reappear as well. And the acting, in spite of all her makeup and prosthetics of the Doctrine Judge, she was a great, mostly heartless villain. Chakotay also does a good role to make his case for humanity and the achievements of the Voth. Yes, once again, the Alpha Quadrant makes its way to the Delta Quadrant, this time literally from Earth. And yes, Doctor Who had the Silurians, but still quite intriguing tale, and definitely, I think, done well for the Copernicus / Galileo / inherit the wind metaphors trope. The city ships, the extra technology was good. I suspect the Voth would be very formidable against the Borg, and probably so far have defeated them, which I don't know at this point. They could have been mentioned and provided reason how they could still exist, what turns out to be close enough to Borg space for them. I'll give it 9.5 globes that defy doctrine out of 10. So I get the impression that, and this is just my impression, that Voth space is actually further away from where they are in this episode. That the only reason that the Voth, for one, have this super fast technology. They can go like super. I think they even mentioned transwarp or slipstream or something like that. They can travel very, very far, very fast. So I get the impression they're only at this place in the galaxy because they're catching up to Voyager, because the scientist wants to find Voyager. That the Voth's actual space is actually pretty far away, and that the main city ship only came because they were following Gagan and wanting to capture Voyager. So they were going to where Voyager was. So I think that their space is actually further away. But that's just my headcanon, my justification in my mind. As far as the camera angles, I actually didn't like those. I forgot to mention, that's another aspect of the episode I wasn't a fan of. I usually like David Livingston as a director, but in this case it's the extreme close-ups with tilted angles, and sometimes they had Dutch angles. They were just distracting to me. I don't think it actually really annoyed me. It's come times when I'm watching it, I'm trying to enjoy the episode, instead I get this weird up the nose in your face, and sometimes it's profile only half the face, and it's super close up. I'm just shoot it normally, for fuck's sake. I mean, sometimes I do weird original cinematography, but when it enhances the story, where I feel this is interfering with the story rather than enhancing it. It's I talked about before, when you notice cinematography, it usually is not doing its job. Now, I know I had people argue with me. It was oh, I've seen some episodes with really great cinematography. I noticed how great it is. But that's different. You're noticing it, when I watch Birdman, for example, the cinematography, I love it. It's the whole movie's one shot, and that's such an impressive thing. But so I noticed it, but when you notice stuff like that, it's because it enhances the story. It's kind of in the back of your mind. It's kind of you had to be cinema, savvy to cinematography to notice stuff like that. And some people are looking for it. But that's the only reason you're noticing it is because it's enhancing the story. Whereas to me, it's when I stop and I think about the cinematography and not the story, then that's interfering with the story. That's not enhancing it. And that's what I mean by when you notice cinematography. I noticed it in this episode. It paused my thinking of the story because I don't think it went along. It distracted from the story rather than enhanced it. Just my humble opinion. Anyway, thank you, patrons, so much for your comments. So my rating for Distant Oranges, I always said oranges, like the Orange Man said oranges instead of origins. Distant Orange, I did it again. Distant Origins, yeah, I got stuck in my head to say oranges. My rating for Distant Origins, out of 10, going to be an 8. Extremely good. And you might think, wow, that seems very high for as much as you were shit talking this episode, Mark, and it kind of is. And I was thinking about, maybe I should drop to a 7, but then I thought, I don't know. I think this episode is better than the 7. As much as I complain about the camera angles or the fact that it rips off Planet of the Apes or the fact that it disorientates me or is distancing to have the first 3 acts not have the Voyager crew in it, stuff like that. Like, I'm mixed on that last thing, to be fair. I don't think it's entirely a bad thing. There's part of me that does like it and does like the fact that I think it's a positive the way that the guest characters can pull the show. Honestly, I was so close to saying 7.5, but I don't want to break my tradition of never doing 0.5s. I don't want to cop out, and if I did do 0.5s, that's what I would have said. I would have said 7.5, but I had to go one way, the other had to, shit or get off the pot, and so I was like 8 rather than the 7. I think it is slightly better than the 7. I would call it 7.5 if I did, but I can't officially do that, so I'm like subliminally, like slyly trying to say this is a 7.5, but officially it's an 8. So yeah. Still, most people would give it like a 9 or a 10, which I think is, slow down there, buddy. I don't think it's that good, but it's definitely interesting. The Voth with their superior technology was scary. The whole, like, seeing it from another alien's perspective and then, like, Chakotay befriending them, that's some good stuff. There's definitely good acting in this. So as much as I complain about the other stuff, I still think it's overall a net positive, good episode. So that's my rating for Distant Origins. God damn it. Origins. Fuck's sake. Anyway, I got it stuck in my head. Probably because I heard the Orange Man mispronounce it as well, and that's messing me up. Anyway, that is it for my review of this episode. And thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe, leave a comment below. Let me know what you thought of this episode. Am I wrong? Is this really a masterpiece? So, if you really want to support my channel, you could do so by supporting me on Patreon. I have different rewards for different tiers, such as you can request a video for me to do. I got pre-releases. You can get a series of patron-only videos where I revisit my reviews that I've already done. You can check out on Patreon. If you are so inclined to do so, there is a link in the description below. Alright, so let's see what's coming up next on the old channel here. Tomorrow will be my review of Starfleet Academy Episode 7. Saturday I will be reviewing the Deep Space Nine episode Children of Time. Monday, going to the next Voyager episode, Displaced. And as I said, that's the last new review I'll have for Season 3. And then next Wednesday, we're reviewing the DS9 episode, Blaze of Glory. So that's what's coming up on my channel. Be sure to check me out as I continue to cover Star Trek Voyager and Deep Space Nine and many other videos on Star Trek and other shows as well. So be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all of that. What's the deal? Sorry. And thanks a lot for watching.